So that is the USDA classing facility in Visalia, California, that we'll be visiting tomorrow. And now I'll give you Mark Lewkowitz, President and CEO of Supima, to talk about It's All in the Fiber.
Are you sick of me yet? So here we are. We've got an interesting session here. I'm going to walk you through a little bit about where the history of the cotton fiber that we know today as Supima really originated from. And this gentleman here, Christopher Columbus, he was an Italian navigator and colonist. He had a great mission in life to try and explore the world. I mean, when we didn't know what the world really encompassed, and lo and behold, he comes across the Atlantic and finds a whole new land they didn't even know existed, and called it the Americas. And in that journey, he discovered something that we have the pleasure of working with today. A little fiber was growing on a tree, and he thought it looked like tree wool because it looked like little sheep actually growing on a tree. So that's the kind of the original name for the product, tree wool. And that species that they discovered there in the Caribbean as they made their way over to the Americas, that fiber was a unique species of cotton. We believe it originally migrated out of either northern South America or out of Central America. The fiber originally was believed to be more what is like Peruvian tanguis today, which is a coarser fiber and a shorter fiber. Didn't have the characteristics that we know today as an extra long staple or very long fiber cotton. That fiber then made its way from the Caribbean over into the Virginia in the 1600s. About 1621 is being cultivated in Virginia, and then it made its way down the eastern seaboard to the South Carolina, Georgia, and the northern Florida areas. And off that coastline is a little island chain of barrier islands called the Sea Islands. And that's where that reported and reputed name of Sea Island cotton came from. So the differentiation between Sea Island cotton and upland cotton all originated from this migration of that fiber from the Caribbean down the eastern seaboard in the U.S. So upland cotton means the cotton went from the Sea Islands to the mainland. It went upland. And that's where the name upland cotton, it became a different species and variety. And that's where we have most of the regular cotton today as upland cotton. And then the Sea Island cotton persisted there until the late 1700s before the pests got a hold of it and ate it up, and it no longer was a viable crop. But even at that point in time, the price of the fiber was $2 a pound. Back then, it was a real luxury. It was something that was exotic and exceptional and just an amazing thing that wasn't readily available. What we have today in terms of the complexity of the fiber, the consistent year-round availability of the fiber is unlike anything they could have ever imagined at that time. So from the 1700s, they ceased producing that fiber really in the Sea Islands in any productive capacity. And then during the World Wars, there was opportunity for the U.S. to say, look, we needed a high-quality, very strong fiber to utilize. And then the USDA started breeding it in Arizona in the 1900s. And they started breeding it just southeast of Phoenix in a place called Sackatoon, Arizona. And in that land where they were breeding it, they were working with a group of Indians, and those Indians are called Pima Indians. And that's where the name Supima Cotton originated from. So in recognition of the Indians allowing the USDA to use the land to grow that cotton, they came up and asked if they could use their name to honor them and recognize the quality of the fiber that they allowed them to be able to create and produce there. So from the Sea Island heritage to Pima and the origin of the development of the beginning of the Supima fiber, that all originated through the U.S. and into the Sea Islands, into Arizona. And then the first cultivar was originally released in 1911. And today, most of the cotton grown in the U.S. is of that upland species. It's the Gossypium hirsutum. If you look on a global basis, it's about 96% because there's actually two other species, Gossypium arboreum and Gossypium herbaceum. But those are very limited growth. One of them is specifically grown. If you go to a florist or IKEA, and you see those cotton plants that are in there for decorative purposes. That fiber, that cotton boll, is a really dense, very robust and durable cotton fiber, and they ship and they can be used in decorative settings like that. If you tried to do the same with Supima, it wouldn't work very well. If you shipped it, the Supima would arrive in a box, and they'd have sticks in the box, and the Supima would be graciously covering the ground of that box, the floor of that box. So it wouldn't travel that well. So Supima here in the U.S. is about 3% of the crop. All the extra long cotton, all extra long staple cotton grown here in the U.S. is 100% Supima cotton. It's all American grown Pima. There's about 13 different varieties or so, plus or minus a couple on a yearly basis that are grown. The predominant number is really focused on about 3 varieties every year, and that really equates to about 80% of the Pima production. It takes about 7 to 12 years to create a new variety. That's done through regular breeding practices, crossbreeding, seed selection processes, fiber selection processes. There is some dual cropping that's being done where it's being grown here and then also down in Colombia in order to try and expedite that process. But again, it's a slow process and it takes time, and it's Mother Nature at work, so you don't have control of the process. It's a best guess scenario, and then you do the crossbreeding and you choose from the thousands of crosses that you get out of one crossing. Then you have to kind of filter down and look at one plant and see if there's something in that plant that is unique and different. So 1911, you can see kind of what a Pima crop looked like back then. The growers today would die if they saw a crop in their field like that because they wouldn't know how to pick it. So if you give the crop as much water as it wants, it's going to be a big tree. It doesn't actually produce a lot of fiber. So they ended up growing these plants that were up to 14 feet tall. And it's non-determinate, so it will continue to grow into a tree. You could physically allow it to mature, create a big trunk, and then it would create these little tree wool scenarios and images that Christopher Columbus originally encountered. And this is where our American Pima cotton is grown today. It's grown exclusively in the West and Southwest. It's in the 4 states here that you see of California, Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas. Those lighter green circular spots are those growing regions. So Texas, although in Texas we're expanding a little bit, there's some new opportunities arising from the Lubbock area, which is a little bit southeast of where that green spot is. And there's some growers that are experimenting with American Pima production in those areas this year, and there's some organic over there as well. We have organic both in New Mexico and California as well, but albeit much more limited and far more expensive in terms of the fiber cost. So when you get out to the cotton fields, if you were looking at organic, you might still see some yellow blooms in the regular cotton fields. Most of those blooms will be gone because we're getting into the harvesting phase. But this is generally what an American Pima cotton flower looks like, and that is a unique differentiator between a Supima plant and an upland plant. It's yellow versus white on an upland. So that's an easy way to differentiate it. The bolls are smaller. They're more delicate. They don't produce as much fiber per boll, which is part of the reason there's a little bit more cost to the fiber, just because it doesn't produce quite as much yield. You heard Kirk talking about a 1,500 pound or 1,600 pound per acre yield in California for Pima. On the upland side, the Kayla side, you can get 2,000, 2,200 pounds, or maybe even a little bit more. So there's those differentials in the species. But the bolls on the upland are bigger. You'll see at the gin how the ginning happenings in the separation. The roller gin that's being applied for American Pima is a slower, it's a little bit more costly process, but it preserves the fiber quality. So it ensures that the fiber that ends up going to the bale is the best possible quality that we can use. The saw gin, which is the original incarnation of the gin that Eli Whitney originally created when he called it the cotton engine, and gin is short for engine. So the cotton engine originally used kind of saw blades to actually tear the fiber physically away from the seed. And the reason they needed to tear the fiber away is because the adhesion point between the seed and the fiber is really strong in upland cotton. But the strength in the fiber isn't as strong. It's just that at the adhesion point between the seed and the fiber. So they physically have to break that fiber away from the seed to separate it. On Supima, it's the opposite. That strength inures directly into the fiber itself. So the fiber is super strong, 50% stronger than regular cotton, but the adhesion point is really weak. So it's very easy to separate the seed from the fiber. So in the ginning process, you need very low adhesion from the drum to pull the fiber, underneath this kind of a blade which doffs off the seed, and the seeds just bounce off and are collected, and that's how you protect the quality of the fiber. So you'll see that in a little bit when we turn the lights on and you get to play a little bit with the cotton samples that we have there for you, and we'll talk about that. But this is a classic picture of an American Pima cotton boll. 3 locks, it's trilobal, it's really beautiful, it's balanced. Hopefully you get to see, so that'll be your 4-leaf clover hunt when you get out into the fields tomorrow. When you see winds and birds flying through the fields and landing in the cotton, they mess them up a bit. So the objective is to see if we can get one perfect looking boll out of the cotton field tomorrow. So that is your task. We'll see what we can accomplish. And then this is the kind of the difference between the fiber length. So you have the Supima on the left and the upland cotton on the right. It's about 30 to 40% longer in terms of fiber length. It's also uniquely finer. Because of the fineness, it gives you the ability to create finer yarns. So Andy Ogden's here from Spinning in English Fine Cottons, and he can talk in much more detail than I can. But one of the benefits of having a fine fiber is that you can have more fibers in the cross-section for the same count of yarn. By increasing the number of fibers in the cross-section, it increases the yarn strength and the smoothness and the uniformity of that yarn. So that's a huge benefit, especially when you get into weaving of products or super fine yarns. So that's one of the benefits of the fineness. The strength obviously helps for weaving processes, especially in the warp when you're under high tensile strength. For fabric like Ventel fabric that is made based on the old Royal Air Force creation of a highly breathable, water-resistant, water-repellent type of fabric, you need very high tension on those looms, and to be able to do that, you have to have a very high-quality, superior cotton to be under those tensions. So that is the benefit of the Supima cotton in those characteristics. And then the American Pima definition, we're also a little bit unique because we actually have laws that pertain to what can be qualified as American Pima. So number one is it has to be of the Gossypium barbadense species or a hybrid thereof. It has to be roller ginned, and we talked about the gin codes. And then it has to have a fiber length of 1 inch and 3/8 or longer. And basically in metric terms for you of that conversion, it is about 35 millimeters and longer. We have a fiber length today that is about 85%, 1.5 inches longer. When you see the USDA data, the USDA uploads all of that data independently, so it's available for anybody to see at any time they want. As the classing season goes along, you can actually track on a weekly basis all the USDA classing summary of information in terms of fiber length, in terms of fiber strength, in terms of micronair, in terms of uniformity, in terms of color aspects, the yellowness, the grayness, the trash content. And when we say trash content, we mean plant materials that are still residue after the ginning process, because the ginning process doesn't take out all the leaf. You don't want to take out all the leaf in the ginning process because you want to process the cotton as little as possible to protect and maintain the quality of the fiber itself. And then this is what you get to see tomorrow in terms of the USDA classing boxes. So it's really hard to see because this is a grade 1 Pima box. Originally, it's separated into 6 biscuits. The first biscuit of the best quality would be in the top left corner. The next one to the right is the second best quality. The third one to the right is the third best. Then you go to the bottom left for the fourth. The fifth is the bottom center, and then the bottom right is the 6th quality. And then if you had the second grade box beside that, the top biscuit on the second grade box would be beside the bottom right corner. So it would be like a staircase down in quality. So we can show that to you at the USDA. They have all the grade boxes out. And then you can physically see the difference because you go from a lighter to a little bit more gray or a little bit more yellow in color from each box. You'll go from a little less trash to a little bit more trash, or the sizes of particulate matter of the leaf content that's in there will be less in the top biscuit versus the right biscuit. Preparation will change. When I say preparation, means the kind of the twisting, the lumpiness of the appearance of Supima cotton. And Supima cotton has this unique look to it when it's in the raw form after it's ginned, and that's because of the ginning process. So we'll explain that when we get to the gin as well. Kirk will have the opportunity to show you, how that works. And then before I get on to that, if we can turn on the lights, everybody's got the little 3 bags here. There's an A and a B bag, which is what we'll start with. And then there's a third bag, which I'll get into after the first 2 bags. But just open up bags A and B. Just take the cotton out. It won't bite. It won't hurt you. There's no sharp objects. It'll pass through when you go back through the airport. If you have sharp and pokey objects, it's not this. So the idea of this is just take a look, just visually inspect. Can we turn on some more lights, maybe? Just so it's a little easier to see. But just visually inspect the fiber. Take a look, see how it looks. Is there any visual differences that you can see in terms of the fiber, in terms of color, in terms of the fluffiness of how it looks, or preparation, or what are the things that you see in that fiber between the two? Any feedback out there of anything that you notice immediately? B is more yellow, okay. B is softer. Okay. Okay, huh? Oh, you're already pulling staple? All right, great. Good. Leave it to the textile guy to dive right in. So this will be easy for Andy, huh? So one looks fluffier than the other, maybe? Yeah, A looks fluffier, right? A is a little wider. In terms of trash content, kind of about the same. Not too much difference. Right? Now, I'm going to ask you to do something technical here, right? So take a piece of cotton, and I'm going to ask you to take about the same piece when you do this test for both of them, right? So make sure they're about representatively about the same amount of quantity. Try and kind of make like a Frankfurter out of this cotton, right? Just don't twist it. Just kind of bundle it together, right? And then you're going to hold it like you're holding on to a handlebar. Put your thumbs on top. Just flip your thumbs on top, and then turn your hands over and kind of pull the fiber apart. And do that with the 2 different samples, the A and the B. And then tell me what you think. But make sure that the A and the B, the amount of cotton you have in your hand is about the same. Right? You're going to want to try and keep that representative. So any experiences of, you notice anything different? B is stronger, it's harder to break. Yeah? You notice that difference, right? It's the natural tenacity and the length of the fiber holding it all together. So the beauty of it is it's super, super strong, and just even in its raw natural state, without doing any processing, just in the raw fiber state, you can already see that strength and tenacity of the fiber, and that inures when you take it into the finished product, into the yarn. It really inures into the quality and durability of that product. So in the third bag, this is what's called sliver, and this is what Andy can tell you more about. What this is once you've taken this and you've carded it, which is a process of trying to take out a little bit more of the leaf content, and then you've combed it, which is the process of lining up and aligning all the fibers. Then you draw that down into this, which is sliver, and then this is then taken and used to create the yarns. So if you just take the end piece off, right, and you just pull it out, you can see how long those fibers are and how easy it pulls apart, right? It just falls apart. It's like butter. And you can see, if you just pull out the fibers, you can see how long those individual fibers are, right? Silky smooth. Actually, I did this at one training session, and the lady said, "Can I take the sample because I want to take it to my hairstylist, and I want him to make my hair look like this." It was kind of cool, right? But you can see all those fibers, the uniformity, the consistency of how amazing they are. Now, as soft as this is and how easy it comes apart, now I'm going to ask you to kind of twist it, right? Just kind of hold two ends and just kind of twist it around, right? And I'm going to ask Leo to come up here and not pull me off the stage. All right? So hold on to that end there. Hold tight. Pull. Come on, pull. Come on. See, he let go before it broke. Just shows you how strong that is. It's just not going to come apart, but that's Mother Nature's perfect work. So when we talk about fiber and people say, what's the perfect fiber? Mother Nature's fiber is perfect because it's imperfect. It's that inconsistency, that uniqueness of each individual fiber that allows it to engage and create this unique tensile strength to the yarns. And that's what gives it the strength and makes it possible for us to do what we do to make the amazing clothes and the products and the home textiles, the sheets and towels that perform and last over a long time. So with that, I'm going to add one final thing. I mentioned this earlier in my opening remarks about authenticity. So to me, the most important thing is being honest and truthful about everything that we do. The reason for us to be here is we want to create the best possible fiber, to work with the best possible partners, to create the most engaging story about the quality and the authenticity of the fiber and the ability to have true authenticity in terms of true traceability. And you'll hear more a little bit later about how we accomplish that. But Supima is the first cotton that you can authenticate through the entire supply chain. And starting in January next year, that same technology is going to be applied such that all U.S. cotton, so it will be the first country of origin that has full authentication of its fiber at any point in the supply chain. You can test the product and you can prove that the cotton is either Supima or the cotton is going to be U.S. cotton. So it's really an amazing and exciting time to be involved in the cotton industry. And with that, I think we're due for a coffee break. Oh, look at that, right on time. I did it. You saved a minute even. So look forward to seeing you out there for some coffee and warming up because I'm freezing. I'm not used to this cold weather. And you know, please ask questions, engage with our panelists that were here from the grower side. Talk amongst yourselves and see you know, what's out there, what opportunities we have to work together. You want to come up, Buxton?
Yeah, that's right. So we'll, I want to thank Mark for his presentation, the Supima 101. You know, we could go on and on forever. I mean, there's so much information that we have to share with you all about Supima, the strength, the fineness, the softness, but we really depend on you as our brands and our partners to kind of translate the technical data, these benefits and technical advantages of Supima, and translate them into a message that connects and engages with your customers. I mean that's really the partnership that we have with you all, and that's one of the things where we can, it's working with you, finding that message that's unique to your brand, that is in the voice of your brand and retail operation, and work with you, partner with you. We're happy to partner with your copywriting teams that may not have that much experience, of writing about fiber, much less something like Supima, which is such a small percentage of fiber. And this is something, you got the treatment from the source with Mark, speaking to the Supima 101 and giving this presentation. But this is something where, we can, if we're able to schedule it, we can show up for a breakfast training session before a store opens. We can do this remotely via, web broadcast. There's a lot of different ways we can make it short. We can make it, long, whatever kind of you feel like is the best mix for, sharing this information with your group. So this is a taste, this is insight. We have all this information. We can share it in various forms. It can go up on your website. It can be used in many different ways to really empower and help you communicate that the advantage of Supima to your customer group.